8. 51b. Chapter XX. But Bodhisattva Sadparibhshta patiently bore this. As he neared the time of his death, when he had expiated his past errors, he was able to hear this sutra, and his 6 sense faculties became pure. Through his transcendent powers, he prolonged his life, and explained this sutra far and wide, acting, once again, for the benefit of others. Those who were attached to their own interpretations of the Dharma were led and inspired by this Bodhisattva, and were enabled to abide within the Buddha path. After the end of his life, Bodhisattva Sadparibhshta met innumerable Buddhas. Because he explained this sutra, he attained immeasurable happiness. Gradually accumulating his merits, he quickly attained the Buddha path. The Bodhisattva Sadparibhshta of that time was none other than I. Because the fourfold assembly, which was then attached to particular aspects of the Dharma, heard Bodhisattva Sadparibhshta say, "You will all become Buddhas." They have since met innumerable Buddhas. Those people are none other than the 100 Bodhisattvas, and laymen and laywomen of pure belief, who are now gathered before me. 269. The Lotus Sutra. In this assembly to hear the Dharma, in my previous lives I taught them, and led them to hear and accept this sutra, which is the ultimate Dharma. I revealed it and taught it to others, and caused them to abide in nirvana. Throughout many lifetimes they preserved and kept a sutra such as this. Only after myriads of koyas of kalpas have passed, a time inconceivable, can they hear this Lotus Sutra. Only after myriads of koyas of kalpas have passed, a time inconceivable, do the Buddha Bhagavats expound this sutra. For this reason, all you practitioners who hear this sutra after the nirvana of the Buddha should feel no doubt about it. You must wholeheartedly expound this sutra far and wide. You will then meet the Buddhas lifetime after lifetime, and quickly attain the Buddha path. 270. 51c. Chapter XXI. The Transcendent Powers of the Tathagata. Thereupon the Bodhisattva Masattva s equal to the number of particles in the great manifold cosmos, who had emerged from the earth, all in the presence of the Buddha gazed single-mindedly at his face with their palms pressed together, and spoke to the Buddha, saying, "O Bhagavat, after the parinirvana of the Buddha, we will teach this sutra extensively in the lands of the Bhagavat's separate forms, at the time of his extinction." Why is this? Because we also wish to attain this true, pure, great Dharma, and to preserve, recite, explain, copy, and make offerings to it. Then the Bhagavat manifested his great transcendent powers in the presence of major and other immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of Bodhisattva Masattvas who had long lived in this world. Such humans and non-humans as monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, devas, Nga-s, Yaka-s, Gandharva-s, Asura-s, Garua-s, Kinara-s, and Mauraga-s. He put out his wide and long tongue which reached upward to the Brahma world. He emitted innumerable and immeasurable colored rays of light from all his pores and universally illuminated the worlds of the 10 directions. All the Buddhas sitting on the lion seats under the jewel trees also put out their wide and long tongues and emitted immeasurable rays of light in the same way. Kyamuni Buddha and the other Buddhas under the jeweled trees manifested transcendent powers while fully hundreds of thousands of years passed. After this they drew back their tongues, coughed, and snapped their fingers together in unison. Those two sounds penetrated throughout the IOU's Buddha worlds of the 10 directions, and the earth quaked in 6 ways. Through the transcendent powers of the Buddha, all the sentient beings in these worlds, humans and such non-humans as Deva S, Nga S, Yaka S, Gan Durva S, Asura S, Garua S, Kainara S, and Maoraga S, saw all the Buddhas. 271. The Lotus Sutra. Sitting on the lion seats under the immeasurable, limitless hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of jewel trees in this Sa world. They saw Kyamuni Buddha sitting on the lion seat in the jeweled stupa, together with Tathgate Prabhshtaratna. They also saw immeasurable, limitless hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of Bodhisattva Masattva S, and the fourfold assembly respectfully surrounding Kyamuni Buddha. After seeing this, they all rejoiced greatly at having attained this unprecedented experience. At the same time all the Devas spoke loudly while in the air, saying, "Beyond these immeasurable, limitless hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of incalculable worlds, there is a land called Sa. In it is a Buddha called Kyamuni. For the Sake of the Bodhisattva Masattva S. He now teaches the Mahayana Sutra called the Lotus Sutra, the instruction for Bodhisattvas and treasured lore of the Buddhas. You should rejoice deeply. You should also honor and pay homage to Kyamuni Buddha." Hearing this voice in the air, all those sentient beings pressed their palms together, faced the Sa world and said, "We take refuge in Kyamuni Buddha. We take refuge in Kyamuni Buddha." All of them scattered various kinds of oas, incense, necklaces, banners, canopies, ornaments, jewels, and other beautiful things over the Sa world from afar. All that had been scattered formed together from the 10 directions like a cloud and was transformed into a jeweled screen that covered all the Buddhas. Then the worlds of the 10 directions became pellucid, without obstruction, as if they were one Buddha land. Thereupon the Buddha addressed the great assembly of Bodhisattvas, beginning with Ayakritra. The transcendent powers of the Buddhas are as immeasurable, limitless, and inconceivable as this. Yet if I were to use these transcendent POWs to teach the bonnets of this sutra so that it would be entrusted to you for immeasurable, limitless, hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of incalculable kalpa s, I would not be able to reach the end of these qualities. To sum up, in this sutra I have clearly revealed and taught all the teachings of the Tathgate, all the transcendent powers of the Tathgate, all the treasure houses of the hidden essence of the Tathgate, and all the profound aspects of the Tathgate. For this reason, after the parinirva of the Tathgate, you should wholeheartedly preserve, recite, explain, and copy it, and practice. 272. 52. Chapter XXI. According to the teaching. Those who accept, recite, explain, and copy it, and practice according to the teaching, in whichever land they may be, in a place where the sutra abides, either in a garden, a forest, under a tree, in a monk's chamber, in a layman's house, in a palace, on a mountain, in a valley, or in the wilderness, in all of these places they should erect and pay homage to a monument. Why is this? Because you should know that these places are the terraces of enlightenment where all the Buddhas have attained highest, complete enlightenment, where all the Buddhas have turned the wheel of the Dharma, and where all the Buddhas entered parinirvana. Thereupon the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this, further spoke these verses. The Buddhas, world inspirers, abiding in their great transcendent powers, manifest this immeasurable power in order to gladden sentient beings. Their tongues reach up to the Brahma world, and they emit innumerable rays of light from their bodies. They manifest this marvel for those who seek for the Buddha path. The coughing and snapping sounds of the Buddhas are universally heard in the lands of the 10 directions. The earth quakes in 6 ways, because this sutra can be preserved. After the nirvana of the Buddha, all the Buddhas rejoice and manifest their immeasurable transcendent powers. Even if, for immeasurable kalpas, they praise those who preserve this sutra in order to entrust it, they will not reach the limit of their merit. The qualities of those people are limitless and endless, just like the boundless sky. 273. 52b. The Lotus Sutra. In the 10 directions, those who preserve this sutra have already seen me, the Buddha Prabhshtaratna, and the various magically created forms. And today they see all the bodhisattvas I have led and inspired up until now. Those who preserve this sutra will gladden me, my magically created forms, as well as the Buddha Prabhshtaratna, who has entered nirvana. They will also see, gladden, and pay homage to the past and future Buddhas, and those who are present in the 10 directions. Those who preserve this sutra will before long attain the Dharma, the hidden essence, which was attained by the Buddhas, seated upon the terrace of enlightenment. Those who preserve this sutra will explain the meaning of the Dharma, the names and phrases, joyfully and with undying vigor, like the wind in the sky, that has no obstruction whatsoever. After the parinirvana of the Tathagata, they will know the causes and conditions, and the sequences of the sutras taught by the Buddha, and will explain the truth in accordance with its meaning. As the light of the sun and moon eliminates the darkness, these people practicing in the world will extinguish the blindness of sentient beings, teaching innumerable bodhisattvas. 274. Chapter XXI. To dwell ultimately in the single vehicle. For this reason, the wise, hearing of the benefits of these merits, should preserve this sutra. After my nirvana, those people will be resolute and will unwaveringly follow the Buddha path. 275. 52c. Chapter XXII. Entrustment. Thereupon, having arisen from the Dharma seat and manifested his great transcendent powers, Kyamuni Buddha caressed the heads of the innumerable bodhisattvas with his right hand, and addressed them, saying, for immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of incalculable kalpas, I practiced this Dharma of highest, complete enlightenment, which is hard to attain. I now entrust it to you. You should whole-heartedly spread this teaching and so extensively benay others. Having caressed the heads of the bodhisattvas 3 times in This way, he further addressed them, saying, for immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of incalculable kalpas, I practiced this Dharma of highest, complete enlightenment, which is hard to attain. I now entrust it to you. You should preserve and recite it. You should spread this teaching extensively. You should let all the sentient beings hear and know it. Why is this? Because with his great compassion, unstinting and unafraid, the Tathagata gives the wisdom of the Buddha, the wisdom of the Tathagata, and the knowledge of the self-arising one to the sentient beings. The Tathagata is nothing but the great donor to all the sentient beings. You should accordingly practice the teaching of the Tathagata. Never allow the thought of avarice to awaken in you. If there are sons and daughters of a virtuous family who believe in the wisdom of the Tathagata in the future, you should expound this Lotus Sutra, and let them hear and know it so that they may attain the wisdom of the Buddha. If there are sentient beings who do not accept it, you should reveal, teach, benay, and gladden them with the other profound teachings of the Tathagata. If you do this, you will repay your indebtedness to the Buddha. Having heard the Buddha teach this, all the Bodhisattvas were led with joy, inclined their bodies, bowed their heads with increased respect, and, with their palms pressed together, faced the Buddhas and uttered these words, "We will certainly do as the Bhagavat directs us. O Bhagavat! We entreat you to feel no anxiety." 277. The Lotus Sutra. All the Bodhisattvas uttered these words 3 times in this way, saying, "We will do as the Bhagavat directs us. O Bhagavat, we entreat you to feel no anxiety." At that time, in order to cause all the Buddhas who were his magically created forms and who had come from the 10 directions to return to their own lands, Kyamuni Buddha said this, all the Buddhas should be at ease. The Buddha Prapshtaratna will be restored as before. When he said this, all the innumerable Buddhas in their magically created forms from the 10 directions sitting on the lion seats under the jeweled trees, the Buddha Prapshtaratna, the great assembly of the limitless and incalculable Bodhisattvas beginning with Ayakritra, the fourfold assemblies of the Avakas beginning with Raputra, and the Devas, humans, and Asuras. In all the worlds, having heard what the Buddha had taught, rejoiced greatly. 278. 53. Chapter 23. Ancient Accounts of Bodhisattva Bhajyaja. Thereupon Bodhisattva Nakatraja Sakazumatthija addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, why does Bodhisattva Bhajyaja wander in this world? O Bhagavat, this Bodhisattva Bhajyaja has performed hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of naotas of difficult and arduous practices. Splendid, O Bhagavat! I entreat you to explain it even a little, so that all the Devas, Ngas, Yakas, Gandharvas, Asuras, Garuas, Kinnaras, Mahoragas, humans, and non-humans, and also the assemblies of the Bodhisattvas who have come from the other lands and these Avakas, will rejoice on hearing it. Then the Buddha spoke to Bodhisattva Nakatraja Sakazumatthija, saying, in the remote past, beyond Kalpas as immeasurable as the sands of the Ganges river, there was a Buddha called Kandrasraya Vimalaprabhsa. An Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. With this Buddha were 80 kois of great Bodhisattva Masattvas and an assembly of great Avakas, as many as the sons of 72 Ganges rivers. The lifespan of this Buddha was 42,000 kalpas, and the lifespans of the Bodhisattvas were also equal to this. In his land there were no women, no hell-dwellers, no hungry ghosts, no animals, no asuras, and no calamities. The land was level like the palm of one's hand and was made of lapis lazuli. It was adorned with jeweled trees, and was covered with jeweled canopies with various hanging, oud banners. This world was LED with jeweled vases and incense burners. There were platforms made of the 7 treasures. For each tree there was a platform, and each tree stood away from the platform a distance of no more than a bow shot. All the Bodhisattvas and Avakas sat under these jeweled trees. On the top of every jeweled platform were hundreds of kois of devas who played divine music and sang in praise and homage to the 279. The Lotus Sutra. Buddha. Then the Buddha expounded the Lotus Sutra for Bodhisattva Sava, Apasadharana and numerous other Bodhisattvas and Avakas. Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana devoted himself entirely to severe practices. Follow. In the teachings of the Buddha Chandrasraya Vimalaprabhasa, he strove and wandered up and down in the single-minded search for enlightenment for a full 12,000 years, and he attained the samai called Savarapasa Darsana. After having attained this samai, he rejoiced a great deal and thought thus: I have attained the samai called Sarvapasadharana entirely. Because of the power I attained through hearing the Lotus Sutra, I will now pay homage to the Buddha Chandrasraya Vimalaprabhasa and the Lotus Sutra. Immediately after he had entered this samai, Mdrava and great Mdravaoas and Nelly powdered solid and black sandalwood fell from the sky, filling the air like clouds and raining down upon the earth. It also rained the perfume of sandalwood from the inner sea coast of Mount Sumayu. With this quantity of perfume, 6 drams of which equal the worth of this Sa world, he paid homage to the Buddha. Having paid homage to the Buddha, he emerged from samai and thought this: I have paid homage to the Buddha using my transcendent power. This is, however, by no means equal to the tribute of offering my body. For a full 1,200 years, he inhaled the fragrance of sandalwood, olibanum, frankincense, clove, aloeswood, and glue trees and drank the fragrant oil of Kampaka oas. He then anointed his body with scented ointment. In the presence of the Buddha Chandrasraya Vimalaprabhasa he covered his body with a divine jeweled garment and with the fragrant oil. Through his transcendent power and vows he set his body alight, which illuminated worlds equal in number to the sons of 80 kois of Ganges rivers. At the same time all the Buddhas in these worlds praised him, saying, Splendid, splendid, O son of a virtuous family. This is the true perseverance. This is called the true Dharma offering to the Tathagata. It. 280. 53b. Chapter 23. Stands no comparison, even if one were to pay tribute with oars, perfumes, necklaces, burning incense, scented powders, ointments, divine silk banners, canopies, perfumes of sandalwood from the inner sea coast of Mount Sumayu, and various other things like this. It stands no comparison, even if one were to offer one's kingdom or wife and children. O son of a virtuous family, this is the supreme offering. This is the highest and best of all offerings, because you offer the Dharma to the Tathagatas. Having spoken these words, all became silent. His body was alight for 1,200 years. After this period passed, his body burned out. Because he had paid tribute to the Dharma like this, Bodhisattva Sava Apasadharana was reborn after his death in the land of the Buddha Kandra Sraya Vimalaprapsa. He was born spontaneously, sitting cross-legged in the house of King Vimaladatta. Then he immediately spoke these verses for the sake of his father, saying, O great king! You should now know that I, in an instant, attained the sum I called Sarvapasadharana, in the place where I wandered, and, practicing with enthusiasm and perseverance, I set aside this, my beloved body. I have paid homage to the Bhagavat, in order to attain the utmost wisdom. After having spoken these verses, he addressed his father, saying, The Buddha Kandrasraya Vimalaprapsa is now in this world. In previously paid homage to the Buddha, I attained the Dhruv, understanding the speech of all sentient beings, and heard 800 thousands of myriads of koyas of naotas of verses, and tens of billions of verses, hundreds of billions of verses, and thousands of lions of verses of the Lotus Sutra. O great king, I will now once again pay homage to this Buddha. 281. 53c. The Lotus Sutra. Having spoken this, he sat on the seven-jeweled platform and ascended into the air as high as 7 tla trees. Having come before the Buddha, he bowed until his forehead touched the Buddha's feet. He praised the Buddha in verse with his fingers pressed together, saying, Your countenance is rare and wonderful. Your brilliance illuminates the 10 directions. Once, long ago, I paid you homage. I now come to behold you again. Thereupon Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana, having spoken this verse, addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat! The Bhagavat is yet in this world. Then the Buddha Kandrasraya Vimalaprapsa said to Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana, O son of a virtuous family! The time of my parinirva has come. The time of extinction has come. I ask you now to prepare my bed. I will enter parinirva tonight. The Buddha said again to Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana, O son of a virtuous family! I entrust you with the Buddha Dharma, and all the Bodhisattvas and great Avakas, as well as the Dharma for highest, complete enlightenment. I will also entrust you with the 7 jeweled world, all the jeweled trees, jeweled platforms, and the Devas, who are my servants in the great manifold cosmos. After my parinirva I will also entrust you with all my relics. You should distribute them far and wide and pay them homage. You should also erect a great many thousands of stupas. Having addressed Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana in this way, the Buddha Kandrasraya Vimalaprapsa entered parinirva in the last watch of that night. Thereupon, having seen the Buddha's parinirva, Bodhisattva Sarva Apasadharana was grieved and saddened, and longed and yearned for the Buddha. having prepared a pyre with sandalwood from the inner sea coast. 282. Chapter 23. Of Mount Sumayu, he cremated the Buddha's body in homage. After the Ai had gone out, he collected all the relics. He had 84,000 Ju eldurns made and erected 84,000 stupas as high as 3 worlds. They were adorned with poles from which hung all kinds of banners and canopies and various kinds of jeweled bells. Then Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana thought this: although I have paid tribute in this way, I am not yet satisfied. I will now further pay homage to the relics. Then he spoke to all the great assemblies of Bodhisattvas, great A with Macron, Vaka S, Deva S, Nga S, and Yaka S, saying, you should pay full attention. I will now pay homage to the relics of the Buddha Kandrasraya Vimalaprabsa. Having said these words, he made an offering before the 84,000 stupas by burning his arms adorned with hundreds of merits for 72,000 years. He thus made innumerable Avakas and incalculable people set forth toward highest, complete enlightenment. All of them were made to dwell in the Samai called Sarvapasadharana. At that time all the Bodhisattvas, Devas, humans, and Asuras saw that his arms were missing and became grieved and distressed. They said, this Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana is our teacher. He has led and inspired us. He has now burned his arms, and his body is deformed. Then Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana made a vow and said to the great assembly, I have abandoned both my arms, and I shall nightly attain the golden body of the Buddha. If this is true and not false, then may both arms be restored as before. Because this Bodhisattva was endowed with profound merit and wisdom, after he had made this vow his arms recovered spontaneously. At that very time the great manifold cosmos quaked in 6 ways. It rained jeweled ores from the heavens, and all the devas and humans experienced an unprecedented marvel. 283. 54. The Lotus Sutra. The Buddha addressed Bodhisattva Nekatraja Sakazumatthija, saying, what do you think about this? Is Bodhisattva Sarvapasadharana someone unknown to you? He is none other than this Bodhisattva Bhajaja. He undertook the practice of giving by abandoning his body immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of naotas of times in this way. O Nekatra Ajar Sakazumatthija. If there is anyone who sets forth and wishes to attain highest, complete enlightenment, he should pay homage to the stupas of the Buddha by burning either a nga or a to. He is superior to those who pay homage by giving their countries and cities, their wives and children, or the mountains, forests, rivers, ponds, and many other rare treasures. If there is anyone who pays homage to all the Buddhas, great Bodhisattvas, Pratyekabuddhas, and are outspiling the great manifold cosmos with the 7 precious treasures, the merit of this person will not be equal to the surpassing merit of one who receives and holds to even a single verse consisting of 4 lines of the Lotus Sutra. O Nekatraja Sakazumatthija. Just as the ocean is the greatest of streams and rivers and of all waters, this Lotus Sutra is the most profound of the sutras taught by the Tathagatas. Just as Mount Sumayu is the greatest of mountains, greater than Earth Mountain, Black Mountain, Mount Kakrava, Mount Makakrava, and the 10 jeweled mountains, this Lotus Sutra is the greatest of the sutras. Just as the moon is the greatest among all the stars. This Lotus Sutra is the most illuminating of the thousands of kois of sutras. Just as the sun destroys darkness, in the same way this sutra destroys the darkness of erring thought. Just as the noble emperor is the best of all the kings. This sutra is the noblest of all the sutras. Just as Sakra is the king of the 33 devas, this sutra is the king of sutras. Just as great Brahma is the father of all the sentient beings, in the same way this sutra is the father of all the wise, the noble, those who have more to learn and those who do not, and those in whom the thought of enlightenment has awakened. Just as those who have entered the stream of the teaching, Srotapanna s, those who are to return to this world once again, Sakmin s, those who are never to return, Ang Min s, Arots, and Pratyekabuddha s are the best of all the common people, in the same way this is the best of all the sutras taught by all the Tathagatas. Bodhisattvas, or Avaka s. 284. 54b. Chapter 23. Those who hold to this sutra are the best of all sentient beings. The Bodhisattvas are the best of all Avaka s and Pratyekabuddha s. In the same way, this sutra is the best of all sutras. Just as the Buddha is the king of the Dharma, this sutra is the king of sutras. Onekatraja Sakazumatbhija. This sutra saves all sentient beings. This sutra makes all sentient beings free from suffering. This sutra greatly benets all sentient beings and brings their aspirations to fulfillment, just as a clear, cool pond satisfies the thirsty, as a eye satisfies those suffering from cold, as clothes for the naked, as a caravan leader for merchants, as a mother for her children, as a boat for the traveler, as a physician for the sick, as a lamp for the gloom, as a treasure for the poor, as a king for the people, as the sea for traders, and a torch for those in darkness. In the same way, this Lotus Sutra frees sentient beings from every suffering, all the pains and bonds of illness and of birth and death. If there is anyone who hears this Lotus Sutra, copies it, or moves others to copy it, their merit will be limitless even if it is measured through the Buddha's wisdom. If there is anyone who copies it and pays it tribute with urs, perfumes, necklaces, burning incense, scented powders, fragrant ointments, banners, canopies, clothes, various kinds of ghee lamps, oil lamps, fragrant oil lamps, lamps of oil made from kampaka, sumanas, pala, vruka, and navamlik trees, that person's merit will also be immeasurable. Onekatraja Sakazumatbhija. If there is anyone who hears this chapter ancient accounts of Bodhisattva Bhajaja, they will attain immeasurable and limitless merit. If there is any woman who hears and holds to this chapter ancient accounts of Bodhisattva Bhajaja, she will never be reborn with a female body. If there is any woman 100 years after the parinirva of the Tathagata who hears this sutra and practices according to the teaching, she will immediately reach the dwelling of the Buddha Amitayas in the Sukvat world, surrounded by great bodhisattvas, and will be born on a jeweled seat in a lotus oa, never again troubled by the 3 poisons of greed, anger, or ignorance, by arrogance or jealousy. He will attain the bodhisattva's transcendent powers and the acceptance of the non-origination of all dharma s. After attaining this acceptance, His faculty of sight will be pure, and with this pure eye faculty, he will see all. The Buddha Tathagatas, equal in number to the sands of 72,285,000. 54c. The Lotus Sutra. Koi s of Naota s of Ganges rivers. At that time all the Buddhas will praise him from afar, saying, Splendid! Splendid! Son of a virtuous family! You have preserved, recited, and contemplated this sutra from the teachings of the Buddha Kyamuni and taught it to others. The merit you have obtained is immeasurable and limitless. Even air cannot burn it. Even water can not wash it away. Even thousands of Buddhas cannot give a complete description of your merit. You have already destroyed the Mras. You have already conquered the armies of birth and death. You have defeated all enemies. O son of a virtuous family! Hundreds of thousands of Buddhas together protect you with their transcendent powers. There is no one equal to you among the devas and humans of the entire world. With the exception of the Tathagata, the wisdom and meditation of all Avakas, Pratyekabuddhas, and Bodhisattvas can never equal yours. O Nakatraja Sakazumatbhija! Such is the power of the merit and wisdom that this Bodhisattva has perfected. If there is anyone who hears this chapter, ancient accounts of Bodhisattva Bhajaja, rejoices in it, and praises it well, in his present life he will always exhale the fragrance of blue lotus oas from his mouth and will always emit the fragrance of the sun Dulwood on Mount Oxhead from his pores. The bonnets of the qualities he has obtained are just as mentioned above. For this reason, O Nakatraja Sakazumatbhija, I will entrust you with this chapter, ancient accounts of Bodhisattva Bhajaja. During the period of 100 years after my parinirva, you must spread it far and wide in Jambudvipa and not allow it to be destroyed. You must not give Mra and his men, or the Devas, Nga-s, Yaka-s, and Kumbha demons any chance of destroying it. O Nakatraja Sakazumatbhija! You should protect this sutra with your transcendent power. Why is this? Because this sutra is good medicine for the ills of the people of Jambudvipa. If there is any sick person who hears this sutra, his illness will disappear, and he will neither die nor grow old. O Nakatraja Sakazumatbhija! If you see anyone who holds to this sutra, you should scatter blue lotus oas full of scented powder on him. After scattering them, you should think like this. 286. Chapter 23. This man will before long destroy the army of Mra, sitting on the grass-covered terrace of enlightenment. He will blow the conch of the Dharma, beat the drum of the great Dharma, and ferry all sentient beings across the ocean of old age, illness, and death. Therefore, if those seeking the Buddha path see those who hold to this sutra, the thought of respect should awaken in them. When this chapter, ancient accounts of Bodhisattva Bhajaja, was being taught, 84,000 Bodhisattvas attained the Dhruv understanding the speech of all sentient beings. The Tathagata Prabhshtaratna in the jeweled stupa praised Bodhisattva Nakatraja Sakazumatbhija, saying, Splendid! Splendid! O Nakatraja Sakazumatbhija! You have attained marvelous merit, for you have questioned the Buddha Kyamuni about these things and benetted all of the immeasurable numbers of sentient beings. 287. 55. Chapter Ksiv. Bodhisattva Gagadasvara. Thereupon, the Buddha Kyamuni emitted a ray of light from his top knot. Ua, the mark of a great person, and also from the tuft of white hair between his eyebrows, A with Macron, thus illuminating all the Buddha worlds in the east equal to the sands of 108 myriads of kois of Lotus of Ganges rivers. Beyond this number of worlds was the Buddha world called Virakanaramapratimate. In that world was the Buddha named Kamala. Dela Vimalanaka Trajasakazumat Bhija, Atathgate, Arat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans. Buddha, Bhagavat. He was respectfully surrounded by a great assembly of countless, innumerable bodhisattvas, and he expounded his teaching for them. The ray of light emitted from the tuft of white hair between the eyebrows of Kyamuni Buddha illuminated that entire world. At that time, in the Buddha world of Virakanaramapratimate there was a bodhisattva whose name was Gagadasvara, wonderful voice. Have implanted many roots of good merit over a long period, he paid homage to and closely attended immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of Buddhas, and accomplished complete and profound wisdom. He attained the samayas called Dvajgrahara, Sadamapwaka, Vimaladatta, Nakatra A with Macron Ja Vikrita, Analama, Jnamud, Sava Rute Kausalya, Sava Puya Samakaya, Pras Devat, Divikrita, Jnok, Vyhaja, Vima Laprapsa, Vimalagarbha, Aptsna, and Srivata. He thus attained great samayas equal in number to the sands of hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of Ganges rivers. As the light of the Buddha Kyamuni illuminated his body, he addressed the Buddha Kamala de la Vimalanaka Trajasakazu Meta with Macron Pijna, saying, O Bhagavat, I shall go to the Sa world, approach the Buddha Kyamuni in homage and reverence, and see Bodhisattva Major, the Prince of the Dharma, as well as Bodhisattva Bhajaja, Bodhisattva. 289. 55b. The Lotus Sutra. Pradnara, Bodhisattva Nakatra Ajasaku Sumit Bhija, Bodhisattva Aya Kritra, Bodhisattva Vihaja, and Bodhisattva Bhajya Samudgate. Then the Buddha Kamala de la Vimalanaka Trajasakazu Mit Pijna addressed Bodhisattva Gagadasvara, saying, You must not despise that world nor think it inferior. O son of a virtuous family! The land of that Sa world is uneven and irregular and is led with mud, stones, mountains, and lth. The Buddha is short of body, as are the bodhisattvas. By contrast, your body is 42,000 yojanas tall, and my body is 6,800,000 yojanas tall. Your body is perfect in its bearing and illuminated most beautifully with hundreds of millions of merits. Yet, when you go there you must not despise that country nor think the Buddha, Bodhisattvas, or the world itself inferior. The Bodhisattva Gagadasvara addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, I am now going to the Sa world through the power of the Tath Gate, the carefree play of the transcendent powers of the Tath Gate, and the adornment of the qualities and wisdom of the Tath Gate. At that time Bodhisattva Gagadasvara, without rising from his seat or moving his body, entered Samai. Through the power of the Samai he caused 84,000 jeweled lotus oas to appear on Mount Draka, not far from the seat of the Dharma. The stems were made of jamnda gold, the leaves of silver, the pistils of diamond, and the calices of ruby. On seeing these lotus oas, Bodhisattva Major, the prince of the Dharma, addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, why has this marvel appeared? There are a great many millions of lotus oas, whose stems are made of jamnda gold, leaves of silver, pistils of diamond, and calices of ruby. The Buddha Kyamuni answered Major, saying, the Bodhisattva Gagadasvara wishes to come to this Sa world from the Buddha world, called Kamala Dela Vimala Nakatra Ajasakas Umit Pijna, together with 84,000 Bodhisattvas as his retinue. He approaches me in whom age and reverence, wishing to make offerings and to hear the Lotus Sutra. Major asked the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, what roots of good merit has he planted, and what merits has he practiced to attain his great transcendent powers? What kind of samai has he practiced? I entreat you to 290. 55c. Chapter Ksiv. Tell us the name of this samai. We wish to practice it with diligence. By practicing this samai we wish to see the shape, appearance, size, and manner of this Bodhisattva. I entreat you, O Bhagavat, to use your transcendent powers and let us see the appearance of that Bodhisattva. Then, the Buddha Kyamuni spoke to Major, saying, the Tath Gate Prabhshtaratna, who long ago entered Parinirva, will manifest the signs for you. At that time the Buddha Prabhshtaratna addressed that Bodhisattva, saying, Come, O son of a virtuous family. Major, the prince of the Dharma, wishes to see you. Thereupon Bodhisattva Gagadasvara disappeared from his world and arrived together with 84,000 Bodhisattvas. In the worlds through which he passed, the land quaked in 6 ways, 7 jeweled lotus oas reigned everywhere, and hundreds of thousands of heavenly musical instruments sounded spontaneously without being played. The eyes of this Bodhisattva were as large as blue lotus leaves. Even if hundreds of thousands of myriads of moons were gathered together, they would not exceed the beauty of his countenance. His body was pure gold in color, adorned with immeasurable hundreds of thousands of merits, radiant with virtuous dignity, and brilliantly illuminated like the adamantine body of the god Nryoa. Having entered the 7-jeweled platform and ascended into the air, he above the earth at a height of 7 tla trees, surrounded by respectful Bodhisattvas, he arrived at Mount Draka in this Sa world and descended from the 7-jeweled terrace. He came before the Buddha Kyamuni with a necklace worth hundreds of thousands in his hand and bowed until his forehead reached the Buddha's feet. He presented the necklace to the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, the Buddha Kamale de Lavamalaneka Traja Sakas you. Mitpijna inquires of the Bhagavat. Are you without illness or pain? Is your daily life pleasant? Are you at ease in practice? Is the world around you harmonious? Are your worldly affairs bearable? Is it easy to save sentient beings? Are they not led with greed, anger, foolishness, avarice, and pride? Are they mindful of their parents? Do they respect RMRS? Do they not have false views or erring thoughts? Do they control the desires of their VE senses? O. Bhagavat. Do the sentient beings conquer s? Has the Tathgata. 291. The Lotus Sutra. Prapshtaratna sitting in the seven-jeweled stupa long after his parinirva. Come here to hear the Dharma. Furthermore, he inquired of the Tathgata Prapshtaratna, saying, Are you at ease and without pain? O Bhagavat! Will your life be long and endured? With patience. I now wish to see the body of the Buddha Prapshtaratna. I entreat you, O Bhagavat, to manifest and show it to me. At that time the Buddha Kyamuni said to the Buddha Prabhtaratna, This Bodhisattva Gagadasvara wants to see you. Then, the Buddha Prapshtaratna addressed Gagadasvara, saying, Did. Splendid. You have paid homage to the Buddha Kyamuni and heard the Lotus Sutra, and have come here in order to see Major and others. Thereupon Bodhisattva Padma addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat! What roots of good merit has this Bodhisattva Gagadasvara planted? And what merits has he practiced to attain these transcendent powers? The Buddha answered Bodhisattva Padma, saying, In the past there was the Buddha called Mahadundubhisvaraja, a Tathgata, Arat, completely enlightened. His world was called Sarvapasadharana and the Kalpa was called Prayadasana. For a period of 12,000 years Bodhisattva Gagadasvara paid homage to the Buddha Mahadundubhisvaraja with 100,000 kinds of music and 84,007 jeweled bowls. As a result of his deeds he was born in the world of the Buddha Kamala de Lavimalanaka Trajasakazumit and has attained his transcendent powers. O Padma! What do you think about this? Is Bodhisattva Gagadha Svara, who paid homage to the Buddha Mahadundubhisvaraja with music and jeweled vessels, someone unknown? Bodhisattva Masattva Gadga Dasvara here present is one and the same. O Padma! Having closely and respectfully attended innumerable Buddhas and planted roots of good merit over a long time, this Bodhisattva Gagadha Svara met hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of Nayotas of Buddhas equal in number to the sands of the Ganges River. O Padma! You think that the body of Bodhisattva Gagadha Svara exists only here, however, this Bodhisattva manifests himself in various bodies. He has thus taught this sutra in many places for the sake of the sentient beings. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of Brahma. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of Sakra. Sometimes he has appeared in 292. 56. Chapter Ksiv. The form of Vera. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of Mahisvara. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of the great commander of the Devas. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of Vairava. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a noble emperor. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a minor king. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a wealthy man. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a householder. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a state official. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a Brahmin. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a monk, nun, layman, or laywoman. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of the wife of a wealthy man or a householder. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of the wife of a state official. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of the wife of a Brahmin. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a boy or a girl. Sometimes he has appeared in the form of a human, or a non-human such as a deva, Nga, Yaka, Gandharva, Asura, Garua, Kinara, or Mahoraga. In this way he has expounded this sutra and saved those in the states of being of hell dwellers, hungry ghosts, animals, and those in difficult circumstances. Sometimes he has transformed himself into a female in royal harems and taught this sutra. O Padma! This Bodhisattva Gagadasvara saves all sentient beings in the Sa world. This Bodhisattva Gagadasvara has transformed himself into various forms and taught this sutra for the sake of all sentient beings. Nevertheless, his transcendent power has never decreased, nor his power of transformation or his wisdom. This Bodhisattva illuminates the Sa world with his great wisdom and causes every sentient being to attain what should be known. He does exactly the same in all the worlds of the 10 directions, which are equal in number to the sands of the Ganges River. If he is able to save them in the form of a Ravaka, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Ravaka. If he is able to save them in the form of a Pratyeka Buddha, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Pratyeka Buddha. If he is able to save them in the form of a Bodhisattva, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Bodhisattva. If he is able to save them in the form of a Buddha, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Buddha. Thus, he transforms himself in various ways according to the capacities of those who are to be saved. If he is able to save them by means of parinirva, he manifests parinirva to them. O Padma! Bodhisattva Masattva 293. 56b. The Lotus Sutra. Gagadasvara has achieved his transcendent powers and the power of wisdom in just such a manner. Thereupon, Bodhisattva Padma addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat! Deep are the roots of good merit that this Bodhisattva Gagada Svara has planted. O Bhagavat! In what samai did this Bodhisattva dwell? Such that he was able to appear in various places in this way, and bring sentient beings to the path. The Buddha answered Bodhisattva Padma, saying, O son of a virtuous family! That samai was called Sarvapa Sadasana. Dwelling in this samai, Bodhisattva Gagadasvara has benefited innumerable sentient beings in this way. When this chapter Bodhisattva Gagadasvara was being taught, those 84,000 people who had come with Bodhisattva Gagadasvara attained the samai called Sarvapa Sadharana. Innumerable Bodhisattvas in this Sa world also attained this samai and drew. Then Bodhisattva Masattva Gagadasvara paid homage to the Buddha Kyamuni and the stupa of the Buddha Prabhshtaratna and returned to his own world. Those worlds through which he travelled quaked in 6 ways and it rained jeweled lotus owers. Hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of variegated music was heard. Having returned to his own world, he approached the Buddha Kamale de Lavamela Nakatra Ajar Sakazumat Bhija, surrounded by 84,000 Bodhisattvas, and said to him, O Bhagavat! I have been to the Sa world and benefited the sentient beings. Having seen the Buddha Kyamuni and the stupa of the Buddha Prabhshtaratna, I paid homage to them and made them offerings. Having seen Bodhisattva Major the prince of the Dharma, Bodhisattva Bhajaja, Bodhisattva Vriya, Balavigapapta, and Bodhisattva Pradnara, I caused these 84,000 Bodhisattvas to attain the sum I called Sarvapesa Darsana. When this chapter, the coming and going of Bodhisattva Gagadha Svara was taught, 42,000 sons of the Deva-s attained the acceptance of the non-origination of all Dharma-s, and Bodhisattva Padma attained the Sadharmapwaka Samai. 294. 56c. 295. Chapter XXV. The Gateway to Every Direction. Manifested by Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. Thereupon arising from his seat with his right shoulder bared, Bodhisattva Akayamati faced the Buddha with his palms pressed together, and spoke thus to him, O Bhagavat. For what reason is Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, hearer of the sounds of the world, called Avalokitesvara? The Buddha answered Bodhisattva Akayamati, saying, O son of Avatya's family, if innumerable hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of sentient beings who experience suffering hear of Bodhisattva Avalokites Vara and wholeheartedly chant his name, Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara will immediately perceive their voices and free them from their suffering. Even if those who hold to the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara were to enter a great ai, because of this Bodhisattva's transcendent power, the ai would not be able to burn them. If they were adrift on the great waters, by chanting his name they would reach the shallows. There are hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of sentient beings who enter the great ocean to seek such treasures as gold, silver, lapis lazuli, mother of pearl, agate, coral, amber, and pearl. Even if a cyclone were to blow the ship of one of these toward the land of Akasa demons, they would all become free from the danger of those Akasa demons if there were even a single person among them who chanted the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. For this reason, he is called Avalokitesvara. If anyone who is about to be beaten chants the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, the sticks and swords will immediately be broken into pieces and he will be delivered. If the Yaka-s and Akasa-s sling the great manifold cosmos come with the intent to afflict the people but hear them chanting, those demons' evil eyes will be unable to see them, so how could they possibly hurt them? The Lotus Sutra. If anyone, whether guilty or innocent, is bound with fetters or chains, such bonds will be broken into pieces, and those who have been bound will become free by chanting the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. When a caravan leader travels on a dangerous road together with his fellow merchants, carrying precious treasures in a great manifold cosmos led with evil robbers, if there be a single person who says, O sons of a virtuous family, do not fear. You should wholeheartedly chant the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. This Bodhisattva bestows fearlessness upon sentient beings. If you chant his name, you will be free from these evil robbers. Now, if those merchants chant loudly in unison, saying, Homage to Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, then, by chanting his name, the caravan will immediately gain deliverance. O Akayamati! The transcendent power of Bodhisattva Masattva Avalokitesvara is as great and mighty as this. If there are any sentient beings who are greatly subject to sensual desires, If they contemplate Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara with respect, they will become free from these desires. If there are any sentient beings who often become angry, if they contemplate Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara with respect, they will become free from anger. If there are any sentient beings who are greatly confused, if they contemplate Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara with respect, they will become free from their confusion. O Akayamati. Thus Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara greatly benets sentient beings through his transcendent power. For this reason sentient beings should always turn their thoughts to him. If any woman wanting to have a baby boy pays homage and makes offerings to Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, she will bear a baby boy endowed with good merit and wisdom. If she wants to have a baby girl, she will bear a beautiful and handsome baby girl who has planted roots of good merit and will have the love of sentient beings. O Akayamati. Such are the transcendent powers of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara that if any sentient being reverently respects him, the merit they achieve will never be in vain. For this reason, sentient beings should hold to the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. O Akayamati. What do you think of someone who holds to the names of the 296? 57a. Chapter XXV. Bodhisattvas equal in number to the sands of 62 koyas of Ganges rivers, and pays homage to them with drink and food, clothes, bedding, and medicine. Is the merit of this son or daughter of a virtuous family great or not? Akayamati answered, saying, O Bhagavat, it is great. The Buddha said, if there is anyone who holds to the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara and anyone who pays homage to him and makes offerings even for a moment, the merit of these two people will be equal and the same. It will never be extinguished after hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of kalpas. O Akayamati. Those who hold to the name of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara will attain such benets of immeasurable and limitless merit. The Bodhisattva Akayamati addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, how does Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara wander through this world? How does he teach the Dharma for the Sakhe of sentient beings? What of his power of skillful means? The Buddha said to Bodhisattva Akayamati, O son of a virtuous family, if there is any land where sentient beings are to be saved by the form of a Buddha, Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Buddha. To those who are to be saved by the form of a Pratyeka Buddha, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Pratyeka Buddha. To those who are to be saved by the form of a Ravaka, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Ravaka. To those who are to be saved by the form of Brahma, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Brahma. To those who are to be saved by the form of Sakra, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Sakra. To those who are to be saved by the form of Vera, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Vera. To those who are to be saved in the form of Mahesvara, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Mahesvara. To those who are to be saved by the form of the great commander of the Devas, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of the great commander of the Devas. To those who are to be saved by the form of Vairava, he teaches the Dharma by changing in himself into the form of Vairava. To those who are to be saved by the form of a minor king, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a minor king. To those who are to be saved by the form of a wealthy man, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of 297. 57b. The Lotus Sutra. A wealthy man. To those who are to be saved by the form of a householder, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a householder. To those who are to be saved by the form of a state official, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a state official. To those who are to be saved by the form of a Brahmin, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a Brahmin. To those who are to be saved by the form of a monk, nun, layman, or laywoman, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a monk, nun, layman, or laywoman. To those who are to be saved by the form of a wife of either a wealthy man, a house holder, a state official, or a Brahmin, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of such a wife. To those who are to be saved by the form of a boy or a girl, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of a boy or a girl. To those who are to be saved by the form of a human, or of a non-human such as a Deva, Nga, Yaka, Gandharva, Asura, Garua, Kinara, or Mauraga, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into any of these forms. To those who are to be saved by the form of Vajrapi, he teaches the Dharma by changing himself into the form of Vajrapi. O Akayamati. This Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara displays such qualities, wanders through many lands in various forms, and saves sentient beings. For this reason you should wholeheartedly pay homage to Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. This Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara bestows fearlessness in times of fearful calamity. For this reason everybody in this world calls him Abhaya Dada, giver of fearlessness. The Bodhisattva Akayamati addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, I shall now pay homage to Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. He then took from his neck a many-jeweled necklace worth hundreds of thousands of gold coins, gave it to him, and said, I entreat you to accept this rare jeweled necklace for the Dharma. At that time Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara did not dare to receive it. Akaya Mati addressed Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, saying, I entreat you to accept this necklace out of pity for us. Then the Buddha said to Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, you should accept this necklace out of pity for such humans and non-humans as this Bodhisattva. Akayamati, the fourfold assembly, Deva S, Nga S, Yaka S, Gandharva S, Asura S, Garua S, Kinara S, and Mauraga S. 298. 57c. Chapter XXV. The Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara accepted the necklace out of pity for the fourfold assembly, Deva S, Nga S, humans, non-humans, and the rest. He then divided it into two parts and gave one part to the Buddha Kyamuni, and the other part to the stupa of the Buddha Prabhshtaratna. O Akayamati. With such inherent transcendent powers Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara wanders throughout the world. Thereupon, Bodhisattva Akayamati asked a question in verse, saying, O Bhagavat, endowed with excellent marks, I now wish to ask you about him once again. For what reason is the heir of the Buddha named Avalokitesvara. The Bhagavat, endowed with excellent marks, answered Ekayamati in verse. Listen to the practices of Avalokitesvara, which have their application to all. His vow is deep like the ocean, and his kalpa is of inconceivable length. After having attended many thousands of koyas of Buddhas, he made a great, pure vow. I will now explain it to you in brief. If you hear his name and see his body, and contemplate him in thought, your life will not be in vain, and you will extinguish all suffering. If anyone wants to hurt you, and pushes you into a great rapid, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, the rapid will change into a pond. If you drift upon the great ocean and meet danger from dragons, and demons, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, you will not be swallowed by the waves. 299. The Lotus Sutra. If you are on the peak of Sumayu, and are pushed by somebody, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, you will stay suspended in the air like the sun. If any evil one chases you, and pushes you from Mount Diamond, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, not even a single hair will be hurt. If evil robbers surround you, each with a sword and the intent to harm, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, the thought of mercy will awaken in them. If you suffer under the punishment of a king, and your life is to be ended by execution, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, the sword will be immediately broken into pieces. If you are imprisoned with a neck chain, your hands and feet fettered, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, they will disappear and you will be released. If anyone wants to hurt your body with a curse or poison, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, these ills will return and afflict their authors. If you meet evil akasas, poisonous dragons, or demons, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, they will not dare to hurt you. If you are surrounded by evil animals, whose teeth and claws are fearfully sharp, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, they will run away swiftly, and to an immeasurable distance. If there are lizards, snakes, vipers, or scorpions, whose breath is poisonous like a humming smoke. 358. Chapter XXV. If you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, they will turn away swiftly at the sound of your voice. If thunder resounds, lightning ashes, hail falls, and a great rain pours out of the clouds, if you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara, they will disappear immediately. If sentient beings are in great adversity, and immeasurable pain afflicts them, the wonderful power of the wisdom of Avalokitesvara can relieve the suffering of the world. Endowed with transcendent powers, and having fully mastered wisdom and skillful means, in all the worlds of the 10 directions, there is no place where he will not manifest himself. The suffering of those in the troubled states of being, hell-dwellers, hungry ghosts, and animals, and the suffering of birth, old age, illness, and death, will gradually be extinguished. He who perceives the world with truth, purity, and vast knowledge, and with benevolence and compassion, should be ever longed for and looked up to. He is a spotless pure ray of light, a sun of wisdom that destroys the darkness, a arm that withstands the winds of calamity. He brilliantly illuminates the entire world. His will, the essence of which is compassion, shakes like thunder. And the mind of mercy is like a beautiful overspreading cloud, which pours the Dharma rain of immortality, and extinguishes the of desires, in a dispute before judges, or fearful in the midst of battle. If you contemplate the power of Avalokitesvara. 301. The Lotus Sutra. All enemies will flee away. He has a wondrous voice. The voice of one who perceives the world. A voice like Brahma's, a voice like the rolling tide. A voice unsurpassed in this world. For this reason you should always contemplate him. You should have no doubt, even for a moment. The pure seer Avalokitesvara will be a refuge. When suffering distress or the misery of death, he is endowed with every quality. Sees the sentient beings with his benevolent eyes. And his ocean of merit is immeasurable. For this reason you should pay him homage. At that time Bodhisattva Dharahara arose from his seat, went before the Buddha and said to him, O Bhagavat, if there are any sentient beings who hear of this chapter, Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara and these effortless deeds, the manifestation of the gateway to all directions, and the transcendent powers, know that their merit will not be little. When the Buddha taught the chapter, the gateway to every direction, the thought of incomparable highest, complete enlightenment awoke in 84,000 sentient beings in the assembly. 302. 58b. Chapter XXVI. Dra. Thereupon, rising from his seat with his right shoulder bared, Bodhisattva Bhagiraja faced the Buddha with his palms pressed together, and spoke to him, saying, O Bhagavat, if there is any son or daughter of a virtuous family who preserves the Lotus Sutra and recites it, is versed in it, and copies it, how much merit will he or she attain? Then the Buddha addressed Bhagiraja, saying, if there is any son or daughter of a virtuous family who pays homage to Buddhas numbering as many as the sands of 800 myriads of kois of Lotus of Ganges rivers, what do you think? Will the merit he or she attains be great or not? He answered, it will be great, O Bhagavat. The Buddha said, if any son or daughter of a virtuous family preserves a verse of 4 lines of this sutra, recites it, understands the meaning, or practices what it teaches, his or her merit will be very great. Thereupon, Bodhisattva Bhagiraja addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, I will now give the dress to the expounders of the Dharma, and protect them. He then recited a dra. Any main main sit carat same summit vind mukt muk. To tame same ava same same jkakak with macron nte samite. Dre I lokab pratyav kini du abhayan taranavite. Abhayan tara prayud dimut kulari pari suki azame. Buddha vilakite dermaparixite sagana honigoid bay. Byavisat hani manta mantakayat root korsali akaak. A yavanati vakul valo amanyanati. O Bhagavat. This mantradra was spoken by Buddhas equal in number to the sands of 62 kois of Ganges rivers. Anyone who attacks or slanders an expounder of the Dharma also attacks or slanders these Buddhas. 303. 58c. The Lotus Sutra. Thereupon, the Buddha Kyamuni praised Bodhisattva Bhagiraja, saying, Splendid! Splendid! O Bhagiraja! Out of compassion you have taught this dra in order to protect the expounders of the Dharma. It will greatly benefit all sentient beings. Then Bodhisattva Pradnara addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, I also will teach Adra in order to protect anyone who recites and preserves the Lotus Sutra. If expounders of the Dharma attain this Dra, no Yaka, Akasa, Tana, Ktya, Kama, or hungry ghost will ever have a chance to strike at their weaknesses even if they try to do so. In the presence of the Buddha he taught Adra, saying, Jvalma jvalak muk av18 tine tivati tini ayani. C19 tivati. O Bhagavat. This mantradra has been spoken by Buddhas equal in number to the sands of the Ganges river, and everyone has rejoiced in it. Anyone who attacks or slanders an expounder of the Dharma also attacks or slanders these Buddhas. Thereupon, the Devaja Vairava, a world protector, addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, I will also teach Adra out of pity for sentient beings and in order to protect expounders of the Dharma. He then recited Adra, saying, Aine Vani Anini Kunai. O Bhagavat, with this mantradra I protect the expounders of the Dharma. I will also protect those who hold to this sutra. All heavy cares shall be banished for 100 yojanas around. At that time the Devajadhara was present in the assembly, fully surrounded by thousands of myriads of koyas of Nayotas of Gandharvas. He came before the Buddha together with them and addressed the Buddha with his palms pressed together, saying, O Bhagavat, with a mantradra, I will also protect those who hold to the Lotus Sutra. He then recited the Dra, saying, Agay gay gorai gandrai kalim tajai jagulive sai agasti. O Bhagavat. This mantradra was spoken by 42 koyas of 304. 59. Chapter XXVI. Buddhas. Anyone who attacks or slanders an expounder of the Dharma also attacks or slanders these Buddhas. At that time there were 10 Akasas. Their names were Lam, 6 Lam, Ba with Macron, Kadant, Pupadant, Macuadant, Keen, Ukul, Mildry, Kunt, and Save Satvo Hoa. These 10 Akasas, together with Ha with Macron Arti and their children and retinues, came before the Buddha and addressed him in unison, saying, O Bhagavat, we also want to protect those who recite and preserve the Lotus Sutra and rid them of their heavy cares. Those who try to strike at the expounders of the Dharma through their weaknesses shall never be able to do so. They then recited Adra in the presence of the Buddha, saying, Iti me iti me iti me iti me iti me nime 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 ruh ruh. Ruh ruh stew 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 stew. Let troubles come upon our heads rather than distress the expounders of the Dharma. No Yaka, no Akasa, no hungry ghost, no Tana, no Ktya, no Vetla, no Skanda, no Omreka, no Apar Sma with Macron Reka, no Yakaktya, no Manyaktya, no fever for 1 day, for 2 days, for 3 days, for 4 days or even up to 7 days or at any time, no one in the form of a man, no one in the form of a woman, no one in the form of a boy, no one in the form of a maiden, no one who may appear even in a dream, in any of these forms shall cause them distress. They then spoke to the Buddha in verse, saying, If anyone does not accept my Dra and troubles one who expounds the Dharma, his head will be split into 7 pieces, just like a branch of the Arjaka tree. Consider the transgression of parricide, of pressing sesame mixed with impurities, of cheating people with scales. Consider the transgression committed by Devadatta. Who divided the Sangha? Those who slander this expounder of the Dharma shall suffer consequences such as these. 305. 59b. The Lotus Sutra. After having spoken these verses, the Akasesa addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, we also want to protect those who preserve, recite, and practice this sutra, and cause them to live at ease, rid them of their weighty cares, and drive out various poisons. The Buddha said to the Akasesa, Splendid! Splendid! You protect those who preserve the name of the Lotus Sutra. Your merit is immeasurable. How much more merit is there in protecting those who perfectly preserve and revere the sutra in various ways, such as by offering oils, perfumes, neck laces, fragrant ointments, scented powders, burning incense, banners, canopies, and music, or by lighting ghee lamps, oil lamps, fragrant oil lamps, lamps of oil made from sumanas, kampaka, vrika, and utpala oils. How much more merit is there in offering such things in hundreds to thousands of ways? O Kunt! You and your retinues should protect the expounders of the Dharma. In this way, when this chapter, Dra was taught, 68,000 Pul attained the acceptance of the non-origination of all Dharma s. 306. Chapter Xxai. Ancient Accounts of King Abhaviha. Thereupon, the Buddha addressed the great assembly, saying, Once upon a time, immeasurable, limitless, inconceivable, and incalculable kalpa-s ago, there was a Buddha named Jaladhara Gajatago Susvaranakatrajayasat. Kusumit-bhija, Atath-gate, Arat, completely enlightened. His land was called Virokana Rasmi Pratimate and the Kalpa was named Prayadasana. There was a king practicing the teaching of the Buddha. He was called Subha Viha, and his consort was named Vimaladatta. They had 2 sons. One was named Vimalagarbha, and the other Vimalanetra. These 2 sons were endowed with great transcendent power, merit, and wisdom, and practiced the Bodhisattva path for a long time. They were versed in the perfections of giving, gna, good conduct, lo, perseverance, nti, effort, vriya, meditation, dina, wisdom, praj, and skillful means and compassion, binv, olence, joy, and generosity, as well as the 37 helpful ways to attain the Dharma. Furthermore, they were also versed in the Bodhisattva Sam Dies of Vimala, Nakatrajdatya, Vimala Nirbsa, Vimala Apa, Vimalabsa, Alakra Subha, and Matijogarbha. Then the Buddha, wanting to guide King Abhaviha, and out of passion for sentient beings, taught this Lotus Sutra. At that time Prince Vimalagarbha and Prince Vimalanitra approached their mother and addressed her with their palms and fingers pressed together, saying, We entreat you, O Mother, to go before the Buddha Jaladhara Gajata. Goasasvaranakatrajasakazumat-bhija. We shall also go before him together with you, attend him, make offerings to him, and pay him homage. Why is this? Because this Buddha teaches the Lotus Sutra amid the assembly of all the devas and humans. Thus we should all listen to him. Their mother answered the sons, saying, 307. 59c. The Lotus Sutra. Your father follows heresies and is deeply attached to the teachings of the Brahmins. You should go to your father to ask him to come with us. Vimalagarbha and Vimalanitra said to their mother with their palms and fingers pressed together, "We are the children of the king of the Dharma, although we were born in this house of wrong views." The mother replied to her sons, saying, "You should have compassion for your father and show him great miracles. If he sees them, his mind will certainly be pured. He will then allow us to go before the Buddha." Thereafter the two sons jumped up into the air as high as 7 trees and, out of their love for their father, showed him various miracles. They walked, stood, sat, and slept in the air, causing water to flow from their upper bodies and blowing air out of their lower bodies, causing water to flow from their lower bodies, and blowing air out of their upper bodies, enlarging their bodies so that they led the air, making them small and then enlarging them again, disappearing in midair and instantly reappearing on the earth, entering the earth as if it were water and walking on the water as though on the earth. By showing various marvels like these, they pured their father's mind and caused him to believe them. When their father saw the transcendent POWs of his sons, he rejoiced a great deal at his unprecedented experience and addressed his sons with his palms pressed together, saying, "Who is your teacher? Whose pupils are you?" The two sons said, "O great king, the Buddha Jaladharagajatajo Susvaranakatrija Sakazumatbhija is now sitting on the seat of the Dharma under the 7-jeweled Bodhi tree and teaching the Lotus Sutra extensively to the assembly of all the devas and humans in this world. He is our teacher. We are his pupils." The father said to his sons. 308. 60. Chapter Xi. I now also wish to see your teacher. Let me go with you. Thereupon, the two sons descended from the air, approached their mother, and addressed her with their palms pressed together, saying, "Our father believed us and the thought of highest, complete enlightenment can now awaken in him. We have done the Buddha's work for the sake of our father. We entreat you, O mother, to allow us to renounce household life and practice the Bodhisattva path under the guidance of that Buddha." At that time the two sons addressed the mother in verse, wanting to elaborate on this meaning further, saying, "We entreat you, O mother, to allow us to renounce household life and to become RMRS. It is extremely difficult to meet Buddhas. We will learn by following this Buddha. It is more difficult to meet a Buddha than to see Uambara-oas. It is also difficult to escape from adversity. We entreat you to allow us to renounce household life." Their mother addressed them immediately, saying, "I give my consent for you to renounce household life." What is the reason for this? It is because it is difficult to meet a Buddha. Then the two sons addressed their parents, saying, "Splendid! O father and mother! We entreat you now to approach and meet the Buddha Jaladharagajatago Susvaranakatrija Sakazu Mitpijna and pay homage to him." Why is this? Because it is difficult to meet a Buddha, just as it is to see Uambara-oas or for a one-eyed turtle to end the whole inner oating piece of wood. Because of our profound merits accumulated in the past, we were born to meet the Buddha Dharma. For this reason our father and mother should. 309. 60b. The Lotus Sutra. Allow us to renounce household life. Why is this? Because it is difficult cult to meet Buddhas, and it is also difficult to obtain an opportunity for meeting them. At that time 84,000 women in the palace of King Subba Vihar all became capable of preserving this Lotus Sutra. Bodhisattva Vimala Netra had already been versed in the Sadharmapwaka Samai for a long time, and Bodhisattva Vimalagarbha had also been versed in the Sarvasattva Parjahana Samai for immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of kalpa s, for he wanted all sentient beings to be separated from evil states of being. The consort of that king attained the Sarva Buddha Sakti Samai, and the secret treasure house of the Buddhas was revealed to her. In this way the two sons inspired their father through the power of their skillful means and caused him to have faith and pleasure in the Buddha Dharma. Then King Abhavihar together with his subjects and retinue, Queen Vimaladatta together with her servants and retinue, and the two princes, together with 42,000 people, came before the Buddha at the same time. Having approached the Buddha, they bowed until their foreheads touched his feet, then circled around him 3 times and sat to one side. At that time the Buddha expounded and taught the Buddha Dharma for the king's sake, greatly benefiting and rejoicing him. Then King Abhavihar and his queen took off their pearl necklaces worth hundreds of thousands and scattered them over the Buddha. In the air they transformed into a 4-pillared jeweled platform. On the platform was a great jeweled bed, spread with hundreds of thousands of myriads of heavenly clothes. The Buddha sat cross-legged upon it, emitting great rays of light. Then King Abhavihar thought, the Buddha's form is marvelous, most superior in dignity, and given perfection by the most delicate countenance. Thereupon the Buddha Jaladharaga Jatago Susvarana Katraja Sat Kazu Meetbhija addressed the fourfold assembly, saying, do you see King Abhavihar standing with his palms pressed together in my presence? This king has become a monk in my Dharma. He will diligently practice the Dharma that aids those on the Buddha path, and will become a Buddha. He will be called Lendraja. His land will 310. Chapter Ksai be called Vistravat, and the Kalpa Abhyugataja. With this Buddha Lendraja will be innumerable bodhisattvas and avakas. His land will be level. Such will be his merits. That king immediately gave his kingdom to his younger brother. He renounced household life and practiced the Buddha Dharma together with his queen, 2 sons, and their retinue. For a period of 84,000 years after their renunciation, the king continued to make diligent efforts and practiced the Lotus Sutra. After this he attained the Sarvagulakravihar Samdai. He ascended instantly into the air to a height of 7 trees, and addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, my 2 sons have done the Buddha's work. Through their miracles they have reformed my erring mind so that I dwell in the Buddha Dharma. These 2 sons are my good friends, they enabled me to see the Bhagavat. It was because they wanted to nurture the roots of good merit accumulated in my past and benami that they were born in my house. Then the Buddha Jaladharaga Jatago Susvarana Katra Ajar Sakazu Meetbhija addressed King Abhavihar, saying, Exactly. Exactly. It is exactly as you have said. If the sons and daughters of a virtuous family make good friends throughout many lives, after having planted roots of good merit, those good friends will perform the Buddha's work, illuminating, teaching, benefiting, and glad, deaning them, and will cause them to enter highest, complete enlightenment. O great King! You should know that a good friend is indeed the great spur that brings inspiration to others, causing them to meet a Buddha and the thought of highest, complete enlightenment to awaken in them. O great King! Do you see these two sons? These two sons have already paid homage to Buddhas equal in number to the sons of 60,000 of myriads of kois of Naotas of Ganges. Rivers, closely attended the Buddhas with respect, accepted the Lotus Sutra in their presence, and, in their compassion, caused sentient beings with false views to dwell in right views. 311. 60c. The Lotus Sutra. Immediately after that, King Abhavihar descended from the air and addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat! The Tathagata is extraordinary, because he is endowed with merits and wisdom. His top knot is brilliantly illuminated, his deep blue eyes are long and wide, the tuft of hair between his eyebrows is white like the bright moon, his white teeth are even and always shining, and his scarlet lips are like the bimba fruit in their beauty. At that time King Abhavihar praised immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of qualities of the Buddha like these and, again, whole-heartedly addressed the Buddha with his palms pressed together, in the presence of the Tathagata, saying, O Bhagavat! This is unprecedented. The Tathagata's Dharma is endowed and perfected with inconceivable subtle qualities. His teaching, integrity, and deeds are serene and comfortable. From today on, we shall never act selfishly and the wrongful thoughts of false views. Pride and anger shall never awaken in us. Having spoken these words he bowed to the Buddha and went away. The Buddha addressed the great assembly, saying, What do you think about this? Is King Abhavihar someone unknown? He is none other than this Bodhisattva Padma. His queen Vimaladatta is none other than this Virakanaramipratimate Dvajarajan now in the presence of the Buddha. Because she had compassion for King Abhavihar and his retinue, she was born here. These two sons are none other than Bodhisattva Bhajaja and Bodhisattva Bhajasamagate. These Bodhisattvas Bhajaja and Bhajasamagate perfected great qualities such as these and, having planted many roots of good merit under the guidance of innumerable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of Buddhas, perfected inconceivable good merit. If anyone holds the names of these two Bodhisattvas in memory, the devas and humans in this entire world will certainly pay homage to those Bodhisattvas. When the Buddha taught this chapter, ancient accounts of King Subba Vihar 84,000 people removed themselves from impurity, rid themselves of delement, and attained pure Dharma eyes with which to see the teachings. 312. 61. Chapter 8. Encouragement of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. Thereupon Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, through his effortless transcendent power, dignity, and fame, arrived from the east together with innumerable, limitless, and incalculable numbers of great Bodhisattvas. All the lands quaked universally wherever he passed. Jeweled lotus oars rained down and immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of kinds of music were heard. He was surrounded by a great assembly of innumerable beings, humans and such non-humans as devas, Nga-s, Yaka-s, Gandharva-s, Asura-s, Garua-s, Kinara-s, and Maoraga-s, each manifesting dignity and transcendent powers. He then arrived at Mount Gdrika in the Sa world. He prostrated himself before Kyamuni Buddha and circled around him to the right. He then addressed him, saying, O Bhagavat! Afar in the land of the Buddharatna Tejopiyugataja I heard you expound the Lotus Sutra in this Sa world. I have come here to listen to you, together with the assembly of immeasurable and limitless hundreds of thousands of myriads of cohesive bodhisattvas. I entreat you, O Bhagavat, to teach us how the sons and daughters of a virtuous family may attain the Lotus Sutra after the parinirvana of the Tathagata. The Buddha said to Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, after the parinirvana of the Tathagata the sons and daughters of a virtuous family will attain the Lotus Sutra if they achieve the four necessary accomplishments. The first is to be protected by the Buddhas, the second is to plant roots of good merit. The third is to enter a group of those who are rightly resolute, and the fourth is to awaken the thought of saving all sentient beings. Those sons and daughters of a virtuous family will definitely attain this sutra after the parinirvana of the Tathagata if they perfect these four accomplishments. Then Bodhisattva Samantabhadra addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat! If there are those who preserve this sutra in the troubled world of the 100 years after, I will protect them and rid them of their heavy cares. Cause 313. The Lotus Sutra. Them to attain happiness, and allow no one to strike at them through their weaknesses. I will not give Mra any chance to afflict them, nor the sons of Mra, daughters of Mra, minions of Mra, those possessed by Mra, Yaka-s, Akasa-s, Kuma-s, Pika-s, Ptyar-s, Tana-s, or Vetla-s. If they recite this sutra, whether walking or standing, I will then come before them on a white elephant king with 6 tusks, together with the assembly of great bodhisattvas, manifest myself, pay homage and protect them, and console their minds for the sake of revering the Lotus Sutra. If they sit contemplating upon this sutra, I will then manifest myself before them on a white elephant king. If they forget a single line or a verse in the Lotus Sutra, I will teach and recite it with them and cause them to become proficient in it. At that time those who accept and recite the Lotus Sutra will be able to see me and, greatly rejoicing, will thus make further efforts. As a result of seeing me they will attain the Samai and Dra-s named Vat Dra, Kota Sahasravat Dra, and Savaruta Kaulaivat Dra. They will attain Dra-s like these. O Bhagavat! In the troubled world of the 100 years after, those monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen who seek, serve, recite, copy, and wish to practice this Lotus Sutra should persevere single-mindedly for 21 days. After a full 21 days I will appear on a white elephant with 6 tusks, accompanied by innumerable bodhisattvas who themselves will also be surrounded by their retinues, and manifest myself before sentient beings in whatever form they wish to see. Then I will expound and teach the Dharma to them and gladden them. I will also give them a Dra spell. When they attain this Dra, non-humans will have no power to destroy them and women no power to trouble them. I myself will also protect these people. I entreat you, O Bhagavat, to allow me to teach this Dra. Thus he taught the spell in the presence of the Buddha, saying, Ade Dharpati Devatni Darkul Dara Sudrai Sudrai. Sudrapati Buddha Pasian Sarvadra Vatni Sarvabhi. Vatan Suvatan Sagarpakani Saganatani Azij. Sagpagate Tiadvasagachalyarpapt Sarve Saga Samatikant. Sarvadharma Suparkite Sarva Satvera Ute Korlinugate Saya Vikrit. Obagavat. If there is any Bodhisattva who hears this dra, he should know it is because of the transcendent power of Samantabhadra. If there is anyone who accepts the Lotus Sutra practiced in Jambudvipa, he 314. 61b. 61c. Chapter X8. Should think, this is nothing but Samantabhadra's virtuous power. If there is anyone who preserves, recites, correctly remembers, understands this meaning, and practices in accordance with the teaching, know that they are practicing the practice of Samantabhadra. They plant deep roots of good merit in the presence of innumerable and limitless Buddhas. The Tathagatas will caress their heads. If they copy this sutra, after their death they will be born in the Triastriya heaven. At that time 84,000 heavenly maidens will welcome them, performing various kinds of music. They will wear 7 jeweled coronets and be happy among their female servants. How much more for those who preserve, recite, remember correctly, understand the meaning, and practice in accordance with the teaching. If there is anyone who preserves, recites, and understands this meaning, at the end of their life 1,000 Buddhas will offer their hands, so that they will neither be afraid nor fall into the troubled states of being. They will thus arrive in the Tuatha heaven of Bodhisattva Maitreya, who is endowed with the 32 marks and surrounded by an assembly of great Bodhisattvas and a retinue of hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of heavenly maidens. There they will be born, and such will be their merit and benefits. For this reason, the wise should wholeheartedly copy, move others to copy, preserve, recite, and remember it correctly and practice in accordance with the teaching. O Bhagavat! Through my transcendent powers I will now protect, extensively distribute and keep this sutra from extermination in Jambudvipa after the parinirvana of the Tathagata. Thereupon the Buddha Kyamuni praised him, saying, Splendid! Splendid! O Samantabhadra! You will protect this sutra and bring Vinay and happiness to sentient beings in many places. You have already accomplished inconceivable merits and profound compassion. Long, long ago the thought of highest, complete enlightenment awakened in you, and you made this vow of transcendent power: I will protect this sutra. Through my transcendent powers I will protect the one who holds to the name of Bodhisattva. Samantabhadra! O Samantabhadra!